All right, we have our first viewer tuned in. So I'm going to begin by giving a few updates on the status of the program, and then I'm going to go ahead and answer questions in the Q&A. If you just tuned in and you have not asked a question yet, but one comes to mind, in the left sidebar, you can select the Q&A option and add your question to the list of questions that have already been asked, and I'll try to go through and make sure we answer all of them. So, a summary and update on the program. Make School is a 2-year college replacement program targeted at students who want to study computer science and then go work in tech at small startups, at tech companies, or perhaps one day become founders themselves. Make School is located in San Francisco, California, and I'm going to fill you in some recent exciting updates. First, our corporate partnerships program. Top Silicon Valley companies only proactively recruit from a select few top schools. They will go and deploy resources, send people to recruiting events, things like that, and it's an honor to be included as a school that these companies formally recruit from. We are really proud to announce that LinkedIn, Lyft, the ride-sharing company, Tilt, Edmodo, Teespring, Hipmunk, a variety of other smaller startups have all signed on as formal corporate partners for Make School and are sending recruiters and engineers to meet our students, to mentor them, potentially screen them for internships and jobs. And we're so excited to take full advantage of our location in San Francisco and our ability to connect with all of these companies to provide our students with as many opportunities as possible. Another update is on housing. We are arranging for there to be a housing option so that all students can live together if they desire. So we will recommend that students get housing through the official Make School housing option. You'll provide this option directly to students at cost. So this is not somewhere that we are looking to make money, and we are currently searching for the cheapest option. We have 2 offers on the table that we're currently negotiating, and both have excess capacity. So there's no question that we'll be able to arrange for housing for all students. The question is, what is the best and most convenient, perhaps cheapest or affordable option that we can secure? The price range to budget for in the most expensive case, the most expensive offer we have on the table is for $1,100 a month for a shared room. So that's $1,100 for a shared room. That's including utilities. It's in the absolute expensive, but for San Francisco, one of the cheapest housing options you can find. And either option will be within a relatively short commute to our office at 11th and Mission Street in the Soma district of San Francisco. So we will update everyone as soon as we've signed on a formal housing option, but we have so many offers on the table with so much excess capacity that, again, it's not a question of whether we will be able to arrange housing for everyone, but simply which option we end up picking. And finally, a common question that has come up, is it too late to apply for the 2015 class, which starts on September 21st of this year, so just in a couple of months? And it turns out that this past week, we saw a spike in applications for this year's program. I think a lot of students who are finishing their internships and looking at August as rapidly approaching are starting to think about their next school year and realizing that the educational experience that Make School has to offer is more exciting and perhaps more valuable to them than what they're set to go back to in September. And so the short answer is absolutely not too late to apply for this coming class. We've actually been surprised to see that this has been the week with a real uptick in interest, and we're sorting through applications right now and screening students for this coming year. Now, if you're interested in the 2016 class, we'd love to talk to you as well, of course, and you can go ahead and submit an application in our existing system if that's something you want to do. So applications are still open for both cycles. Now, I'm going to go ahead and look at this Q&A sidebar. If you haven't seen it yet, you can hover on the left and highlight it where you can ask your own questions, but also upvote questions that others have asked. So I'm going to go in the order of upvotes, at least the order that Google is presenting these questions to me. And then that'll take us, I think, a good 10, 15 minutes to get through all of these common questions. And after that, I'll I'll open things up for any more that that students would like to ask. So the first question is, does the curriculum include any assembly language or programming microcontrollers? In particular, because robotics, AI, autonomous machines have the potential to be the next tech revolution, and so these are natural and essential skills for CS students to learn. And the answer is that we cover some of this in our second year. So we have a section that of our curriculum in our second year that focuses on Internet of Things applications. So that is definitely a trend we're seeing emerge. Home automation and more, taking real-world devices and connecting them with sensors to software and the internet, and then allowing programmers like you to automate them, read data off of them, and build applications on top of them. We will go into some machine learning and AI, and we are in talks with a company that is building a robotics lab in the cloud that would let you write code to run a robot, and then basically the robot would be in a warehouse somewhere. You get high-speed video feed of the robot running your code, and then you'd be able to actually do robotic stuff without actually having to own a robot. So these are all things that we have planned or are looking into for the second year, and I agree with you. These are really tremendous new waves of innovation and technology. We want to make sure our students are prepared to take advantage of. The next question is, tell us more about the need-based living assistance and possible work opportunities to pay for expenses. And this is a very, very good question. And to fully answer it, I want to remind everyone what our financial model and tuition model is like, and then dive a little deeper into ways to make it work. So students who come to Make School do not pay tuition up front, but are still responsible for room and board. So this is food and housing. Students will study with us for 8 months and then do a 6-month internship, during which we will take their internship salary. So they, during those 6 months, still have to budget for room and board. They will then return and study for another 8 months, and then after that go work full-time, at which point we will take 25% of student salary for 2 years. So once you finish Make School, it's not as big of an issue covering living expenses, because you'll be pocketing roughly 3/4 of an engineer's salary, and that is not as good as pocketing 100%, but it's very livable. So the question becomes, during these 2 years while you're studying, how can you make it work? The first answer is, we don't take any money that you make doing contract or part-time work. So in the first year, if you want to do contract or part-time work, we are supportive. We won't take any of your revenues. Keep in mind that it will make your sort of academic calendar pretty packed, and we'd recommend that you may try to combine your iOS project or your Rails project in the first and second semester with whatever contract work you're doing, or potentially reduce the scope of some of the projects you're doing in class to give you some time to do contract work outside of class. In the second year, so the second 8 months of study, we've actually built in 20 hours a week, 10 of which are in class and 10 of which are outside, for students to do contract and part-time work. So it's basically a requirement in your second year that you go ahead and work part-time or do contract work for clients. And again, we don't take any of that money. So once you make it past the first 14 months, the 8-month study period and the 6-month internship period, we've built into the program a way for students to start making money and start sustaining themselves. When it comes to those first 14 months, how students go about affording it will have a variety of different answers. Everything from squeezing in contract work to, of course, some folks have savings that they were intending on putting towards housing in college that they'll use for this instead. And then if finances, if paying for rent and food is the only thing preventing you from attending Make School, then on a case-by-case need basis, we will work and are working with a couple of local organizations and providing funding ourselves to try and help students still be able to live in San Francisco before they actually start making money in that second 8-month period. So to give you a sense of our commitment to need-based assistance, last summer, our summer program, which is a tuition upfront program, 43% of students got a scholarship. This summer, 50% of students got a scholarship. So it's not just talk. We really, truly do our best to make sure that if cost is the only barrier, we find creative ways to break down that barrier. And part of it might end up being sort of taking a little bit more of your salary 2 years down the line when you graduate in exchange for helping cover some of rent now, among other solutions. Next, we have a question from Octavia. Would you recommend we find housing ourselves, or would it be better financially or socially to live in housing that we have available for students? And we choose to go with the former, meaning if students want to get their own housing, will need-based housing still apply? So like any higher education institution, we recommend that you live with other students. We're going to have a wide range of age ranges represented. Everything students who are college age to students who are several years past college age. And we found year after year after year running our summer programs that it's actually a very enriching experience to have folks from a diversity of backgrounds and age ranges all living together. We also believe that in general, unless you're local to the Bay Area, we're probably going to end up being one of the cheapest or the cheapest option that you can find. If you're from here, it's hard to beat, living with your parents, for example. But if you're moving here from somewhere else, San Francisco's housing market is so crazy that even if we end up going with our most expensive option, which would be $1,100 a month, that's still really cheap for San Francisco. If you live in make school housing, then there is the possibility for need-based assistance. We're still working on the particulars, and it's going to be very case-by-case depending on your particular situation. If you're living outside of make school housing, we are not able to directly assist with sort of covering some of those expenses, but we might still be able to introduce you to organizations or other folks who could help out. So that's a little bit less concrete, but we're working through some of those relationships with third parties that might be able to help with housing costs this year. And so Octavia, I think you're interested in the 2016 program for next year. By the time you come along, hopefully we'll have a better answer for you as to whether we can introduce you to folks who can help you with housing costs, even if you're not living in make school housing. But I will say that a huge part of the make school experience is going to be living together. And if you can't afford to live in make school housing, we'll do our best to make it still possible for you. And if you end up not living in make school housing, we hope that you're not too far away and you're still able to hang out socially with students. And those of you who've spent some time in college know that a lot of the magic of the experience happens after hours in the dorms and sort of those interpersonal relationships that are formed. So our next question is from Mary. Mary, I think we met at a hackathon this past year, if I'm not mistaken. It's nice to see you in the info session. How is an average day structured? Probably the most common question. I'm really glad you asked it. Seeing is really believing, and we should release a quick video of what our SF office environment looks like. But it's a lot closer to an office than a classroom. So you're walking in, you have your own desk. And we have our instructors in the room who are all professional engineers, folks who most recently were doing engineering jobs. And on any given day, you're going to have between an hour to an hour and a half of planned group discussion or group activity or perhaps lecture introducing a new project or topic. But everything is project-based. So there's no tests, there's no homework in the sort of graded problem set sense. It's all based on what projects you're working on. And we alternate between two kinds of projects. Projects where we define the end goal. So we say, hey, we're going to teach you, let's say in the first semester, we're teaching you these 4 algorithms. And to teach you these 4 algorithms instead of just having lectures and writing on a blackboard about them, we're going to tell you that you need to build a certain piece of software that is going to use those algorithms and guide you along the way to build that project. So that's one kind where we define the goal, and the purpose is to teach you skills along the way. We do a similar thing to teach you iOS development, web development, machine learning, and so on and so forth. It's all about these projects where we kind of structure them, and then you go ahead and build a functioning piece of software to learn a new technology. So a lot of the time you're doing that. And when you're not doing that, you're doing something that is even more awesome, which is you're taking what you've learned and you're designing, coding, and shipping your own original project. And this is when things get really, really lively, because when you have to build your own product from scratch, there's so much that goes into it, from design to user testing to marketing and everything in between. And so programming is a big part of the equation, obviously, but it's not the only part. And so what you'll see if you walk into even like Make School Summer Academy is folks are buzzing around constantly, talking to each other, brainstorming, testing, having one-on-ones with instructors, getting feedback on how to proceed with their projects. And at the end of the day, it ends up being hour and a half of structured activity, 5-6 hours to code or test or discuss, plan. And I'd like to also mention that a quarter of the curriculum roughly is non-technical. It's related to the kinds of things our students are interested in. So it's related to tech or business or entrepreneurship, but it's not programming. So we have everything from design to communication, public speaking, pitching, fundraising, business ethics, even some content around politics of the local area and politics of tech. So on some days you're doing some of that instead of programming, and I think that's very important to providing a well-rounded 2-year college alternative experience. The next question, will there be any opportunity to pitch investors? Absolutely. We are going to practice that. We are going to help you incorporate your own company. We're going to help you learn all of these sort of standard processes behind fundraising. Every student who wants to apply to Y Combinator, we will assist, whether you're doing it as an exercise to kind of learn what the process is like, or because you actually want to apply. We are very keen on helping you learn those skills and very much attracting students like you who have that as one of their primary interests. All right, let me see. How about international students? Will Make School be able to provide the visa? The answer is very case by case. We are not an accredited school, which means we cannot issue standard student visas, but depending on students' nationality and past educational background, there are different options available, and that's something you have to reach out to me individually to talk about, because there's no generalized answer. It is possible for some international students. It is not possible for all international students. Imad asks, who are the instructors? How many are they? What are the technical backgrounds? Imad, I know that you are in our San Francisco Summer Academy right now, but for those folks who don't know, we have several engineers. Imad, these include Benji, who you've met in San Francisco, Dion, who you've met in San Francisco, as well as Daniel, who's currently in our second location. And these are folks who most recently, before joining Make School, were doing engineering jobs or actually teaching Make School's content already to students. These are folks who have seen what they're teaching put in practice in the real world in most cases, and that's the kind of instructor we look for. We are not looking for folks who have a traditional academic background. If they do, that's great, but the thing that makes us excited to hire them as instructors is their engineering background and their exposure to the real world. Our CS theory instructor, Alan, used to work at Twilio, then went on to work at Leap Motion. Before that, he used to train folks for the International Math Olympiads. He's interviewed hundreds of candidates for tech companies, and he's helping us craft a theoretical curriculum as well as help students prepare for their job interviews. So all of our instructors come from that sort of background, folks who are most recently in industry and have a very strong understanding of what it's like to be a software engineer. We're looking at over the course of the first year, about 1 instructor for every 10 students. In fact, a little bit more, but not all instructors are teaching at every point in time, because in the fall, we're doing more theory and iOS. In the spring, we're doing more open source software development and Rails, and so the instructors rotate. How will students be able to use the network of startups, founders, and Y Combinator in particular? Very good question. We are very well connected to Y Combinator and a variety of investors in the Valley. One way you'll be able to make use of this network is that we're going to introduce you to folks in this network, invite you to parties that companies in this network throw, invite you to events that some of these investors organize, and introduce you one-on-one to some of the folks who are prominent investors or founders in the Valley. And through meeting them, you're going to build relationships that are going to help you as you go out in the real world. It's really a blessing to be part of the Y Combinator family, part of the 500 Startups family, part of the Andreessen Horowitz family, because of the number of events that get organized, that we get invited to, that we've been able, in our pilot class last year, and will continue to be able to bring our students to. And it turns out that, and this may sound funny to some of you, but when a company throws a party after hours, if I show up and I bring 30 of you amazing software engineering students, I become the most popular guy at the party because companies are always trying to hire, and they're always so excited if I bring them people who might want to work for them. So last year, it was a great hit, having our students get involved in the social scene around startups in the area, and I'm very excited to continue that this coming year. Jarek asks us, if you want to start your own company after Make School, what do you do? Because you're not going to be getting a salary, you're going to be doing a startup, and so you don't want to be paying us the very little money you have as a startup founder. The answer is, we've thought of that. Don't worry. We fully expect that some students are going to start their companies, and we've set a list of requirements, notably having, being working on it full time, having actually making progress towards launching something, or having launched something, or having raised upwards of $100,000 in capital. And if these conditions remain true for more than a few months, so we can tell that you're serious, you're working on it full time, you've raised capital, if you launched something, then we will void your tuition. And instead of taking whatever remaining tuition we're supposed to get, we will just take a small percentage of your company as if we had invested that tuition money back into your company. So the amounts we're going to take are very small, and in an early stage startup, cash is kind of your most precious resource, and we're very respectful of that. So we want to make sure that we're very supportive of our students who go on the entrepreneurial path, and that's why we take a small percent of the company instead of taking your money. Next up, so I'm browsing the questions here. Is the SF 2-year program the same as the NYC or Chicago 2-year programs? The answer is, we actually don't have an NYC or Chicago 2-year program. Our 2-year program is only offered in San Francisco. Our summer program is offered in New York City as well as Sunnyvale, which is near San Francisco, but the 2-year program is only in Rishi, how will the instructors attend to students who have different paces of learning? Very good question. How do you keep slower paced students from falling behind? How do you allocate the learning so that all students come out with this knowledge? Very good question. We don't think it's realistic to have every student come out with the exact same knowledge. Some students are going to get so excited about Rails that when given the opportunity, when they go to the dorms after hours, they're going to continue working on the Rails projects. Other students are going to get so excited about design that they're going to be spending their time, perfecting the design of their mobile app. And some students are going to be so into entrepreneurship that they're going to be busy applying to Y Combinator. And we think that's okay. So the real answer to your question, I think, is pertinent to the first part, which how do you accommodate different paces of learning? And the simple answer for this time around is we have a very high faculty to student ratio. The total team Make School, when students start this September, will be around 18 people. Of those 18 people, about 8 are technical enough that they can assist with parts of the curriculum, or are in fact fully in charge of teaching. And that's for 30 to 50 students. So we have a lot of resources at our disposal to make sure that when a student encounters a subject or a topic that is harder for them to grasp, we're able to provide the individualized attention to prevent students from falling behind. Another key mechanism is, and as you know this, Rashi, from the Summer Academy, we have these phases where students are able to design their own projects. And a student who is more confident in the technology that we're using at that particular point in time is a student who can design a more complicated project. And can bite off sort of a more ambitious scope of work. A student who is still, getting familiar with the concepts can pick a project idea that is simpler and lets them move at a pace that is more comfortable for them. Next, we have Octavia. If we are able to pay part of the cost of Make School during the 2-year term, how much would we pay in total? How much will we pay in total if we wait until we have a paying job or startup? So there is no fixed amount that we take if you don't pay up front. We take a percentage. All the money you make in your internship and then 25% of your salary for 2 years after you graduate. So that means if you get paid a lot, we take a little bit more. You get paid less, we take a little bit less. You don't have a job, we don't take anything, right? So we can only estimate how much money you'll pay back. We can't give you a solid number because it really depends on how much money you'll be making. So we estimate that students might end up paying back anywhere from $70,000 to $90,000 over the course of their time at and after Make School, if they get the sort of salaries that we hope they will at the jobs that some of our students in our last batch were able to get. If you choose to pay up front, we're going to ask for some number that is similar to that. Probably not as big because money up front is to some degree more valuable than money later. We don't have any students currently who are US citizens or permanent residents who are opting to pay up front. But if you wanted to, it'd be on the order of $30,000 to $40,000 a year. That's not something we've had to explore or really finalize because nobody in our current incoming class has asked to do that. Everyone wants to pay a percentage later. So Octavia, if you are really interested in paying us money up front, then contact me directly at jeremy@makeschool.com and we can talk about it. But the default deal is no tuition up front. You only cover housing, room, and board, and we take a percentage of your salary later once you actually get a job. Looking down, I applied for the 2015 class. Can I apply for the 2016 class as well? Absolutely. The thing is, our application system will not let you reapply. You'll have to wait for the 2015 cycle to officially close so that you can, the system will no longer think of you as someone who has already applied and let you reapply for the 2016 cycle. When the 2015 cycle closes and 2016 cycle opens, we will send the email out to everyone, and you're at no disadvantage if you have to wait until they reopen. It's going to be relatively soon, sometime in the early fall. So sit tight, and you absolutely will be able to apply again for 2016. A very important question. Is there a degree earned at the end? Is there an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, something like that? And the answer is no. Make School is not a degree granting institution. There's a variety of reasons for that. A big one being that there's a lot of really slow regulation around being able to give degrees. Our system in California and at the federal level is pretty bogged down. And so, when a new school in California applies for a license, which is even before they apply to be able to give a degree, there's a 14-month backlog before these applications are even reviewed. Now, the thing is, the real question you should ask is, does it make a difference that I don't get a degree? And the answer is, it must make some amount of difference, but I think not in a lot of the ways that students are worried about. Even though we don't give you a degree, you can put Make School on your resume. You can say, I was a Make School student, class 2017. When you graduate, you can, Make School alum, you can put that in your resume. You won't have a degree from us, but employers can still call us and confirm whether or not you successfully completed the program. And so the question then becomes, do employers recognize Make School? And that's the question that is really material, because you could have a degree from a school that employers don't recognize. And what we are very proud of is that Make School is one of the few schools, period, that employers in Silicon Valley are recognizing. There are tons of degree-granting schools in this country who would never get recognized by employers. Doesn't mean employers would automatically reject you or anything, but when they look at it, just because you have a degree doesn't mean that they're going to know what that school is or what it's about. Because of the corporate partnerships we've signed, because of the conversations we're having, because of our connections to our investors, a large number of really large Silicon Valley companies have heard of Make School, know what Make School is about, and are willing to come and recruit our students. And that's really what matters. I gave it in the early update, but I'll say it again. We have LinkedIn, Lyft, which are both multi-billion-dollar companies, Tilt, Hipmunk, Teespring, Edmodo, which are sort of medium-sized up to the sort of $100 million companies, and then a bunch of smaller, maybe less than 50-person startups, all signed on as formal corporate partners who are coming to recruit out of Make School, and that's I think what really matters in terms of employment. The one thing that is for sure, though, is not having a degree hurts your chances for going to grad school. And so if you're coming into Make School and you think you might want to go to grad school, we should talk. We are not a good place to prepare students for grad school, at least not currently. We're a good place to help you get an amazing job in tech, and those, in the way that we're doing things, are kind of mutually exclusive paths. So make sure to be aware of that. There's no degree, which means no opportunity for grad school, at least a lot of difficulty in going to grad school. And if that's a problem for you, we should talk about it and make sure that Make School is the right fit for you. I am browsing some more questions. How many students will be attending Make School, and what percentage attended the Summer Academy, asks Imad. We're looking at an incoming class of around 30, of whom on the order of 20% we think will have attended the Summer Academy. But we're not exactly sure yet because we haven't finalized enrollment numbers. Let's take a look. Chances of international student getting selected. There's two parts of the international student process. Our standard process, determining whether you're a good fit based on your background, programming ability, desire to make, all these good things. Are you a nice person? And then for international students, there's the extra complication of your particular educational background and nationality, which determines which visa options you might be eligible for. Again, it's so case by case for international students that you really should email me to talk about it, because there's no general answer as to whether international students can or cannot attend Make School. Some can, some can't. Octavia asks how we should plan or move to San Francisco. For 2015, the housing is going to become available around September 15th, and classes are going to start on September 21st. So move-in day is going to be anywhere between the 15th and the 21st, and if you're from out of town, especially if you've never been to San Francisco before, we have someone on our team who's ready to have a one-on-one conversation with you, making sure we plan everything from the right flights to get you picked up from the airport, to get you to the right part of town, and make sure that that all goes smoothly. Again, we have a big enough team for a small enough number of students that for the 2-year program, we're able to provide individualized attention to everyone. And we know that moving to SF for 2 years of your life is a huge deal, and we're all here to support you and make sure that it's as smooth as possible. How long is the average school day? The students come in around 10 a.m. and are done around 6 p.m. On days where things are not formally scheduled, or rather in periods of time where things are not formally scheduled, where it's just sort of open coding or collaboration time, students are able to, on a case-by-case basis, and making sure that we have a heads up, of course, go work on other part-time work or contract work, as long as they stay up to date with our curriculum. It is not as easy to do part-time work or contract work in the first 8 months before the internship, but it's not impossible. We have a lot of students who are planning on doing it. It just means you have to be a little bit more tactical about how you plan your Make School projects and make sure you balance them out with your contract work so that you don't get too bogged down. We really don't believe that it's healthy to be, not sleeping enough and constantly stress about high volumes of work. So we want to make sure that you just do it in a healthy way. But it's something that you're going to have to work with either existing contacts or other students who already are in contract work to try to find work. We'll do our best to help you, but it's not a structured part of the program in the first 8 months. In contrast, in the second 8 months, we've built in time for it, and we are committed to helping you find work. Now, of course, the student plays a big part in finding work. Every time you're going to get a job offer, it's going to be a 50-50 split between whether it's a company that we were already partners with or it was a company that you proactively reached out to. We want you to do both. We want you to meet companies we already know and also apply to companies that are not yet talking to us. But in the second 8 months, we're very committed to helping you find contract work or part-time work. In the first 8 months, you're a little bit more on your own, but a lot of students are planning on doing it. A lot of questions here around like what should you know before coming to Make School? Are beginners welcome and so on and so forth. We only have one objective criteria, meaning sort of one way that you can get totally disqualified. And I'll explain why, but it's purely based on programming experience. So we are accepting of a wide variety of interest levels, past experience levels, both in terms of having shipped products, created companies. We have folks who've discovered programming relatively recently. We have folks who've been doing it since they were 12. But there's kind of a minimum qualifying line you have to be over to be able to get value out of Make School. And it's not about trying to be exclusionary. It's about making assumptions about what students know and starting at a certain level of complexity in the first week in September when students arrive that makes it that it's important to have a certain level of programming knowledge. Now, what that looks like is not necessarily that you've been programming since you were 12. It can very much look like a rapid trajectory of growth over the last few months. And so we're very open to students who might count as beginner because you've only started recently, but we'll try to be creative in assessing your true understanding of the material, give you pointers on ways you can study up and learn some more in the next few weeks if you want to start in September, and try to assess you in ways that are as sort of open-minded as possible. We're trying to find reasons that you would qualify from a programming perspective, not reasons to disqualify you. The other side of that question is more generally, how do you prepare for Make School? What's the right kind of person? What are you looking for? And the answer is that, the programming stuff I just talked about, that's just what qualifies you from a pure ability perspective. That's not what gets you in. What gets us excited about a student is someone who has gone above and beyond, usually taking opportunities outside of class to create, to make, to start. So it doesn't mean that you have to have launched 17 apps on the App Store and have 5 websites you made, though if you do, that's awesome. We love that too. But it means that you have to be a maker at heart. And ways that we could, see that are not having released tons of apps could be organizations you've started, could be events you've organized, could be businesses you've started, things that you've done that you can point to in the world. You can say that thing, event, organization, product, whatever it is, that exists because I created it. And that's what makes us excited about a student and tells us that you're the kind of person who'll fit in here, because our incoming class of students are folks who are all excited about, at the risk of sounding cliche, about changing the world as they study. Because our program allows students to build products and launch them during their school year. We're attracting a lot of folks who are really excited about launching impactful products and services even while they're studying. And to be that kind of person, we like to see evidence that before you even get here, you were already going out and finding opportunities to create and make and so on and so forth. Vikram asks, when is the optimal time to apply to the program? We see a wide range. Our most common application profile are students who are in their freshman or sophomore year in college, followed by students who are seniors in high school, followed by students who are self-taught and several years out of college or never even went to college in the first place. So if you're a year into your electrical engineering and computer engineering program, you'd fit right in as like kind of the average sort of educational background for a student. And in terms of how much programming knowledge is required, if I had to quantify it, you have to understand basic data structures and object-oriented programming. If I go over a piece of code that you've written and I ask you what is going on and why you did certain things, you should be able to explain it, as opposed to have copy pasted the entire thing. Though copy pasting is a wonderful way to start. That's how I started. But we want to get you to a point of understanding where you've written code and then it produces functional software that does stuff, apps, websites, or little smaller self-contained pieces of software that run, that do interesting things, and that we can poke at them and kind of get a sense to understand what's going on. That if we ask you the difference between object and a class, how inheritance worked, perhaps what class variables versus static variables are, maybe going into even like protocols, delegates, some software architecture, things like that are terms that you're familiar with. It could be, depending on your level of intuition or how well you picked up the material, it could be as little as the amount of programming you get from like an introductory programming sequence in college, though typically we look for more. Students who maybe have done at least that and then more courses, or have done at least that and then supplemented on their own by coding in their free time and taking extra online classes. How many applications do we get on average? Let me pull up our application dashboard and tell you, because instead of making up a number, I can give you a live number. So let's take a look. The number of folks who have applied so far to the 2-year program. The answer is 625 for a maximum of 50 slots and approximately, I think, 30 students ish who are going to end up coming this year. So a lot of applicants for relatively few spots. And honestly, it doesn't make me feel good to brag about the number of people that we're rejecting. But it has been quite selective. And I think the numbers speak for themselves. 625 applications so far for 30 to 50 slots is a lot. Let's see. I'm not that experienced in programming. Should I learn more and apply for 2016? What should I prepare? You should absolutely learn more. You should absolutely apply for 2016. And this question is so common that you've inspired me to write a post that we're going to email to everyone on how to prepare for Mixable. I think that you all deserve an answer in writing with actionable links to courses or materials or concepts that you could review and study in the next year to get ready for the program. And instead of telling you verbally now, I'm going to take some time to write what I think is a good lesson plan for the next year and then email that out to everyone. Question from a prospective student: what is the best thing to have in an application? And I think I gave that answer, which is to have, show a pattern of being a maker, not the kind of person who just talks about their cool business idea or their cool organization idea or this cool thing they're going to do, but the kind of person who can show me tons of cool things that they have done or created. What is the average age or age range for students? It's actually bimodal. So on the one hand, there's a good chunk of students who are between the ages of 18 to 22. And then there's fewer who are just over that age, though some. And then there's another chunk of students who are between 26 and 29. Would I recommend attending both the summer program and the 2-year program? For students who are on the fence with their programming experience or are new to making and so haven't had enough time to build up that track record of launching products, we have a system in place where you can come to our summer academy as a way to get a final decision about whether you're going to get into the 2-year program. So we might, for example, admit you to the 2-year program on the condition that you attend the summer program. That's rare, but it happens. 2 questions just popped up. Are there going to be more spots for the class of 2016? The plan is yes. The plan is to have a larger class incoming in 2016, but for this year, we will not expand the number of slots over 50 to ensure as high quality as possible for this program. How much interaction do Ashu and I make with the students at the office in the 2-year program? So we will be at the office every day with you, and we try to make an effort to get to know every student one-on-one. This gets harder as the program gets bigger, but with 30, 50 students this coming year, it's still possible. And we're going to make it a point to set aside time to speak to every student on a regular basis. Whether that be possible 2 years from now when we have hundreds of students, we'll see. But this incoming class, Adrian, yes, Ashu and I are going to do our best to get to know everyone and meet with them regularly. Jacob asked whether the teacher-student ratio will be similar in the class of 2016. That's the plan. Maybe the core team of folks who can double as teachers, that the number of them won't increase, but the number of new teachers coming in will increase and should balance out, lead to about a 1 to 10. Student asks, can I still apply for the program for late next year? Yes, absolutely. When will a school calendar be available? Really good question. Let me make a note of that and make sure we email one out to everyone. Craft school calendar. All right, stay posted. We'll make sure to send that out to folks. Is Mixable seeking accreditation so that it will confer degrees? Melissa asks. We are doing the step that is required before that, which is to get licensed by the state of California. And we're taking things one step at a time. We can't apply for accreditation until we are licensed. And we are proactively working on that process and crafting our application and getting ready to submit it. And once that application is approved, which we don't anticipate any reason that it shouldn't be, except for it'll take some time because they're backlogged right now, we'll then explore our accreditation options. Mary asked whether the internship during the second period of the program is guaranteed and whether it's linked to Mixable's corporate sponsors. We can never guarantee that someone is going to hire you because every company wants to reserve the right to put you through their traditional sort of hiring process and make sure that you're a qualified candidate. So nobody on the face of the earth that we could find will commit or promise to hire someone that they haven't met or interviewed. That being said, the 20 hours of contract work, part-time work that we build in to the second 8 months of the program are tied to the corporate sponsors. Most of them have committed to keeping on students who intern for them during that 6-month internship period. If that goes well, and there's no reason for the student if there's no signs of poor performance, they've committed to keeping that student on board for part-time work over the course of the remaining 8 months. So a lot of it will be arranged through our corporate sponsors. I'm sure that some students will, or corporate partners, sorry, but I'm sure some students will find opportunities outside of our corporate partners, but we still have that amazing baseline of companies, big to small, who are all coming and will be looking to meet and recruit you. And I think that'll account for a lot of the offers that our students end up getting, both for full-time internship work, part-time work for the second 8 months, and then full-time work again later. Octavia, you asked a question that's similar to another question. I'm going to send out kind of a lesson plan for this year. Jesse asked a good question. What happens if the languages you teach become outdated by the time you can go out in the real world and actually put them to practice? And how do we prevent from teaching things that are out of date? We strongly believe that if we teach the same thing 2 years in a row, it can't be right. Something has to change. And so we have a close connection to a lot of CTOs, VPs of engineering, founders in the Valley, and we check with them regularly to make sure that our curriculum is still up to date, invite them to give guest lectures so we're getting a glimpse into the latest and greatest topics, invite alums who now work at those companies to come back and give us advice on what has changed, what is being used. In the particular case of Swift, it's not going to be outdated before it's taught. Swift is relatively recently introduced, and I think the Apple developer community will be absolutely furious if Apple introduces yet another language or something else comes to displace it. But still, how you program Swift, what frameworks you use, what methodologies you use, and even more so for other parts of our curriculum, we are committed to updating, checking with industry every 6 months, and from year to year, making sure that things get rewritten to a significant degree, not just from an industry perspective, but also taking into account student feedback. We have, again, a large enough team that we can rewrite stuff both on the fly and on time for next year's class based on student feedback. Let's see. I think that I've covered most of the common questions. Any industry websites or resources that I recommend to stay up to date on what's going on in innovation entrepreneurship, I would say Hacker News, news.ycombinator.com is a really good place to go. And it's sort of a bulletin board where techies kind of post articles that interest them and have long discussions and debates about them. So that's a really, really good place that I find some high quality content. Let's do 2 more questions. What kind of opportunities will students have to build relationships with each other, and do we facilitate that amongst alumni? The answer is most students are going to be living together. Be frequently encouraged to go explore the city and attend events together. And we have, I think 9 of our 11 alums from our last class are in the Bay Area, and I'm sure they'll be coming back to meet you, to mentor. We're really, really big on creating alumni community and a family. And if you look at even what we've done just from our summer academy, there is regular activity on our summer academy group or alum group from students who graduated even 3 years ago, posting latest updates and what they're up to. So we it's going to be such a tight-knit group. The good news is there's other colleges in the area. The Minerva Project is down the street from us, SF State, USF, SF Conservatory, Academy of Art, all schools with students of the same age as our incoming class in basically within walking distance. And we have relationships to folks from some of these schools and are excited for our students to get a chance to meet and mingle. We might even, or we have in the past for the Minerva Project, we hope we will continue through joint events for our students to meet folks from other universities in the area. And now maybe a last question. A lot of negative comments on our TechCrunch article. How do we feel about the noise? Don't really worry about it. I mean, seeing is believing. If you come and see what we're doing, if you see the companies that have partnered with us, if you see the caliber of student that we're attracting and how happy they are, it speaks for itself. A lot of people have a lot invested, I think, in something like this not working. It's potentially traumatizing to have spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars of, on a college education, and then see someone go to make school and then have a higher paying salary than you, a year into it, right? I mean, we had students from our last salaries with like a 30K signing bonus just after a few months into the program. So that's kind of shocking, and I think people are very ideologically tied to reasons why this should or shouldn't work. And what you should know is that we are not ideologically tied to anything but providing the best education for our students. There is no way for Make School to survive economically except for our students to succeed. We don't get research grants. We can't fill our football stadium with fans. Our only way of students getting jobs and getting good outcomes, and that's something we're very, very committed to. And the results are going to speak for themselves. All right, last question. Will there be guest speakers or tours of some of the companies in the Bay Area? Yes, our corporate partners have committed to hosting tours of their companies, and so we will be going to plenty of those over the course of the 2 years. I'd like to wrap up by saying I am really impressed and humbled by the quality and quantity of questions on this Q&A. I'm really excited at the opportunity to get to know you folks better over the course of the coming years. And I'm going to summarize with a short update that I gave at the beginning because a lot of folks hadn't tuned in yet. It is not too late to apply for the 2015 class. In fact, we're getting a lot of applications right now as people start thinking about their next school year and realize they don't want to go back to school, or at least not traditional school. We signed partnerships with companies as big as LinkedIn, Lyft, and then medium-sized and smaller companies as well. We're going to come recruit out of our program. And we have housing arranged and available for our students. And if cost is the only thing preventing you from attending, we will do our best to make it work. Talk to us. Thanks a bunch. And you can always reach me at jeremy@makeschool.com. Thanks.